Work Journal 6. So this video, I'm going to go over a couple app changes and then also go into some of the business background of it. So this is a new change, basically where you see here where you can assign a user. So this would assign different users to a client. So you'd add a client and you'd assign a user to them. And that would be used for texting follow-up, and it can be used for call routing and that kind of thing. As well, I made this phone number field optional depending on whether it's set to be working. And then I also integrated this. So if there's no phone number here, you cannot direct message them. If, for instance, you add a phone number, then you will be able to send them a direct message. So then you can text them directly. And there have been a lot of changes made in the back and basically in the code. What we are trying to do is to make it a lot easier to upgrade the application. So we're looking at how do we make it so if a client comes to us and they want to build a certain app, we can build it with the same infrastructure, but then we can also upgrade it. So basically they're getting a custom application suited to their needs, but we're also building an app that is basically a foundation for building more things for them. So to give you an idea of what I mean, the client details, if we have a client who requires different details, we want them to be able to be easy to add in. So we'd have a different fields. For instance, this address, we have another component that we'll be building in, which actually checks to see if it's a valid address, and it will dynamically show you the addresses once you start typing. So if you're typing and you do 177, it will show you all the potential addresses that are in a certain region. So we want to be able to easily add in those fields. But the complicated part is actually not so much that, it is, just move this over a little bit. So you can see here on the left, you see clients, there's users, images, monthly calls, lists, text clients. So the way that the system works as we're developing it today anyways, is whenever a texting, we'll call it a texting feature is enabled on an account, it will enable this, for instance, it will enable the messages component. So it'll actually turn this on. And it also enables a couple things that you can't see on the client, but there's something called like is texting subscribed, and then also has the client requested an unsubscribe, and there's also something we call a rotating phone number. So there are certain requirements that we have to add into the client if we enable texting. So if this we'll just call these are pages, but we'll just call them modules here for just some clarity. So if we enable, for instance, this texting client list, well, there automatically needs to be a list turned on in the client. So we already have that. So you can see here, these are lists. So this is automatically populates in the client. And obviously, another setting we may want to make is that the phone number would be required. So that's something we can turn on in the settings, is to require the phone number. Whereas right now, this phone number is not required. So I can just remove it and save it. So what we're trying to do is build a system that's more dynamic so that we can build custom applications faster. And the reason why we're trying to do it more of a custom application route is because a lot of businesses need software that is matched directly to their needs. They don't need 100 extra features, and they don't want them because it just makes the process more confusing, and it also makes it difficult to stick to a certain process. If you can do anything, it's hard to basically set up your process that you run in your business, especially if you have a team and you want everybody to do the same thing. So the idea is to be able to build the custom software faster for a client, and also for it to be upgradable so that they can add on more features as they go. So what does that mean? As an example, I was saying that this address can be changed to something that is basically you start typing and it will tell you what real addresses are. The value in that is that it gives you an exact address. If you're not enforcing anything in here, you could write in Main Street, or you could write in something more specific, like what city is this in, for instance. We have no idea. And so that can cause problems if you go to look up the actual address. So an example of... So the reason why is one client may need a very specific address. So this would enable a client to then set up automatic routing. So another type of thing that we did for a client, and this would be a type of a module, is they have a bunch of locations they need to visit on a weekly basis, about over 300 of them. And so we ran them through an algorithm to figure out what order they should be visited in. So their needs for that algorithm also will be different than a different company. So we need to be able to set up that customization so it works exactly for them. So basically, we want to find out exactly what a company is doing already, like exactly what they're doing, and we want to turn that into a process so that they're just doing the same thing, but it's speeding up their process because they're doing it all through software. They can enforce quality, and they can have the team all doing the exact same thing. So that's a little bit of an overview of the background of what we're doing and why we're doing it. And I'll talk more about that, but that is I'll go over for today's module. So this is Work Journal 6.